And we're live. It is Wednesday, October 28th, 2020, 5:02 p.m. We are 2 minutes late today because the blue go live button did not turn blue in a timely fashion. Didn't actually wait 2 minutes, but it did cause a momentary delay. And that brings me to the subject of Miles Taylor. Because when I have to wait long periods of time for the blue go live button, I think it brings me to mind of other things I have had to wait long periods of time for, one of which is the identity of Anonymous. And I want to say I am bitterly disappointed with the answer. I'm not disappointed with Miles Taylor, who wrote an anonymous op-ed, did his thing. I'm bitterly disappointed with the New York Times for dumbing down, downgrading senior administration official to the level of chief of staff at DHS. So let's have a brief lesson on what is and is not a senior administration official. If you are not Senate confirmed and don't work at the White House, by definition, you are not a senior administration official. Maybe you can make an argument for the non-Senate confirmed people in the White House, like the National Security Advisor, the White House Counsel, the White House Chief of Staff. All of them are arguably senior administration officials. If you are at an agency, you better be fucking Senate confirmed before you count as a senior administration official. So the Attorney General, a senior administration official. The Solicitor General, maybe not a senior administration official. The Chief of Staff to the Attorney General, not a senior administration official. Now let's talk briefly about the Department of Homeland Security. If you are at the Department of Homeland Security and you are the Secretary of Homeland Security, yes, you are a senior administration official. If you are the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, you may or may not be a senior administration official. If you are the official, the senior official acting in place of the dude who normally does the shit that the secretary does, you are posing as a senior administration official. But if you are the counselor to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, the adjutant to, the aide-de-camp of, the pipsqueak who gets the coffee for the Secretary of Homeland Security, you are a staffer. You may be a senior staffer, but you may be the deputy undersecretary staffer who gets the coffee for the staffer, who gets the blah, 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 senior, lots of titles. You are still a motherfucking staffer.
Bless you.
Thank you. I'm muting.
Not a senior administration official.
Well, folks, unfortunately, we're out of time.
Memo to the New York Times. Stop this inflation of titles for purposes of your own inflation of news value of your op-eds. We are not allowed to have fun anymore. In lieu of fun, we do get to make fun of the titles of senior administration officials, and we have to do it with us. Virginia Heffernan, goddess of Trumpcast, and Mike Chase, a.k.a. @Crime-A-Day. And we're going to make fun of the election.
Goddess of Crime-A-Day, I thought. Goddess of Crime-A-Day.
You are the goddess of Crime-A-Day. Mike, so I want to start with an important question that's been bothering me about Virginia Heffernan since the dawn of time. Every episode of Trumpcast, you mention that your Twitter feed is @page88. And I have tried to figure out how that is related to the name Virginia Heffernan, but there's no P in Virginia Heffernan. There's no gematria that I could come up with that gets to 88 out of either Virginia or Heffernan or both. And so, what the fuck? Where's the Twitter handle from?
Well, I've got to give in. I mean, you can imagine, as the trolls say, it does stand for Heil Hitler. So it's finally after the 4 years.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah. So there is this nasty problem that ADH, just a lucky number from childhood, also turns out to be HH in the alphabet. And some of the neo-Nazis think I'm one of their own, which has been an unfortunate tax on my name. But I started.
Isn't it a Alcoholics Anonymous reference?
No. Is it?
Oh, it's not? Oh, I thought it was.
Here's the problem. I basically joined out of the gate at South by Southwest during the launch, or maybe the year after the launch of Twitter. And I thought it was like eBay. Look at your eBay names. You just made up something, so you would never be found. And I really thought it was a strip club, and I had to keep my profile low. And then my old boss, Bill Keller at the New York Times, came in and said, we're going to get you guys verified because you need to put your articles on little Twitter. And then I saw everyone with their own fancy names and titles, and I couldn't believe that I was using my little name. So someone else,
club name.
Clive Tom, my eBay name. So Clive Tom, anyway, Paige is my middle name. 88 is a lucky number. It's one of my first ever passwords, like at the ATM. It's not a good name.
Everyone following along at home, writing this down.
So this is great because now we're going to get the origin story of Mike Chase's
yes,
Twitter names, because
Sure.
I've been trying to figure out how Crime a Day could emerge from a Twitter feed that posts a single criminal offense every day.
Well, he wrote a book about it too, Ben.
Well, it's funny. A lot of people think that Crime a Day has to do with the fact that I post a crime a day. But in fact, I started the Twitter feed to post once a day about the Crimea. And so that is where the name
Crimea Day.
Yeah, it started as a Crimea-based Twitter account, and then I decided to do this silly thing with the crimes every day. So it worked out, but really, that was the origin story.
Every day is Crimea Day in the Kremlin.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, you get a lot of Russian followers.
Right.
Like me with the Nazis.
Yeah, there'll be a format change at some point in the next, couple of weeks, probably.
So, all right. How are we feeling about the election?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, I just need to quickly adjust my normal bracelet, not to say anything except I voted today. And I voted, and
did you vote in New York or New Hampshire? Or?
I voted in New York. I voted in New York and stayed in the bubble like I like it. I like being in lockstep with people at the polls. I don't want to live in a swing state. I don't want to hear other opinions. I don't want some Proud Boy goons there. I just want a lot of people in lockstep with me politically voting for the same candidate. So that's why I stay in Brooklyn and I don't register anywhere else, because then I might have to hear those abrasive other thoughts. But I also, it was good today. This day, it was kind of a nail biter because I put off deciding who I was going to vote for to the last minute. And so I was open to all arguments.
That's very
on the walkover.
Shapiro of you.
Yeah, exactly. I just keep it loose. I
keep an open mind. Yeah.
Open mind.
Have you voted yet, Mike Chase?
No, I don't live in one. I don't think I live in one of these early voting states. I like to go to the polls though. I like the marker. I like trying to perfectly bubble in my response.
Totally.
So no. I like the experience of going to the polls and voting. I have not voted yet. I will be voting on election day.
But have you made up your mind, Mike?
Well, so I've got a little bit of a conflict of interest. I have to disclose that I've sort of informally been tapped as the potential AG candidate for the Libertarian Party this year. So there's a little bit of bias there. I've been sort of, Spike Cohen and I have been going back and forth on Twitter, and I got to say I'm tempted to become the first part-time attorney general in the history of the United States, because we'll have so few prosecutions. So that would be.
Are you? But it's sort of. I would think the pro-crime party has also endorsed you.
So it is a conflict, because Trump has been great for crime a day, right? And what 4 more years of of this. I don't know. I mean, like, on the one hand, you've got the country, but on the other hand, you have Twitter. So it's like, how does one decide? So yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I've made up my mind. Luckily, it's only this is only state and local elections this time, right? I think. Yeah. Okay. So so I'm good.
My grandma just asked me that. She was like, "Is this a presidential election this year?"
That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
Well, the last time she voted for Trump, so I was like, "No, it's not a presidential year."
There you have it.
Senate and
engaged in an act of voter
She lives in Maine.
That's right.
She lives in fucking Maine. I'm like, do not go to the polls. That's a waste of your time. COVID.
It's really dangerous.
COVID.
Is she a Collins person?
It's not clear. She moved there to live with my aunt I would say 6 years ago now. I don't think she has a strong stake in the senators or anything. It's just more presidential for her, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, fortunately, it's not a presidential election this year.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
For everyone listening who's thinking of voting, only vote if your county tax collector is on the ballot, because there's no senators running for re-election, no presidential election going on.
Also, probate judge. Probate judge is very important. I don't know why people need to pay more attention to probate judge elections.
And dog catcher.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, I have an important question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I was thinking about how many different crimes I could commit with a single act of interfering with a mail-in ballot.
Oh, God.
Because you got all your mail crimes and also all your voting crimes.
Oh, yeah.
So I was wondering if you had given any thought to the question of what the simplest act you can think of that violates, in the context of the election, the most different federal statutes, if done with appropriate criminal intent.
Probably, and I don't advocate for this.
And if you can get a cheese crime in there, smearing cheese, throwing cheese into a mailbox with intent to violate with intent to despoil a ballot or something like that.
So I think I could do it. I think what you do is you distribute a little bit of adulterated, overly moist Gouda cheese or something as a ruse to get into the mail. But buried in there, you've got an incendiary device, and it ignites inside of a mail truck. I think that probably, and there's ballots in there, right? There's ballots in the mail truck, right? So you've now slowed down the mail. You've destroyed a mail vehicle. You've distributed in interstate commerce an incendiary device, and you've committed an adulterated cheese offense, and then to name a few. I think those are good. And then after you do it, you got to go ask some members of the armed services how they voted. Take a poll of members of the armed services for one more additional federal crime. But yeah, I think burning a mail truck, probably with ballots in it, that gets you the most crimes in one swoop.
But I have a better one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Virginia. What's yours?
I just can't believe there's a whole list of crimes that don't include what turns out to be the only crime, wire fraud. Still don't know what it is. Still know that how do we explain to our kids when they hear about Keith Raniere or whoever, Paul Manafort, that however evil they are, it's just wire fraud.
Everything is wire fraud.
What it is. They can have done anything else that's completely graphic and understandable as a violent crime, but it's just the wires.
I used to think,
are there wires? What wire?
What? Yeah, Mike Chase, explain wire fraud to us, please.
Yeah, wire fraud dumbed way down.
Yeah,
is lying for something of value in interstate commerce. That is like the whole deal.
On an electronic
device. That is the dumbest crime.
Not really.
Okay.
All it requires.
If you don't do it in any kind of electronic communication or interstate communication, if you do it totally in person.
You didn't though. You didn't. There's no scenario in which you did it totally in person.
Yeah,
because remember, the wiring doesn't have to have facilitated or effectuated the fraud. The wiring can be almost totally incidental to the whole thing, as long as they were used in the course of. So you don't have to transmit the lie.
What are the wires?
The wires are the internet. The wires are honestly,
is there wireless? Is there Wi-Fi fraud?
Oh yeah. Oh, of course,
okay.
of course, because there's a wire somewhere.
Wire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, frankly, everything is a wire. Like the only way to like not commit wire fraud is to like live in a bathtub full of milk until you turn 20 years old. You crawl out and you like steal something from your grandmother downstairs, and then you go back into the bucket of milk.
Lie to her about the election date.
Now you're screwed because now you've probably committed wire fraud. Yeah. How'd you find out about the election milk bathtub person?
Yeah. I just don't I don't feel that it grows out of the 7 deadly sins or the 10 commandments.
No.
I feel like it makes no sense to a child. Like Paul Manafort, come on.
But that's a very natural.
If we're talking about crimes that don't involve, let's talk about voter fraud.
Sure.
Because I think today is a day that we all need to be committing voter fraud. Any fraud that's not voter fraud is kind of cut rate fraud at this point, right? Mm-hmm. And so what does and doesn't count as voter fraud, and should people commit it?
Can I make a broad point that will like maybe quell something that's happening on the internet a lot? Voter fraud is not when somebody steals your candidate's sign off of your front lawn. I can't tell you how many videos I have seen of people saying.
Let's make a list of things that are not voter fraud. Virginia, do you have any questions about whether something is voter fraud? For example, you have a sign war going on with your neighbor.
I have a sign war
religiously on Trumpcast.
I have a sign war upstate in my Purple County, where I've really against my against my nervous system. I've been exposed to people with views that are not my own, including my next door neighbor who had a Trump flag up in front of their house. So that's this blue flag, and it was tangled up with their American flag because that's flying right beside it when I first saw it. So I decided to just tell myself that it was one of those MIA POW flags, that like long ago before QAnon thing that people believed that there were still people lost in Vietnam. And remember, people believed it until a couple of years ago. And then anyway, it wasn't that. It is a blue Trump flag that flies alongside at the same size as the Stars and Stripes. Okay. So I decided, I went back and forth but then someone told me that Hillary people in 2016 thought lawn signs weren't classy. And so they thought that they were just tacky and beneath us. And that snobbery had kept Democrats from winning the lawn sign war. So I just got a discreet Biden-Harris sign and put it down. And I still was like, it's not uncool. And it's not a huge flag. And I decided Black Lives Matter, I can't really do it. Okay. So then they put up 2 giant banners. They haven't yet said hello, and we just moved in. Okay, they put up 2 giant banners on either side of their driveway. Ooh, I was hopping mad. So I went over there and explained emoluments to them. I said, violating the Hatch Act is just not something I want in a president. And so they took down their flags, and now they're all in for Biden. So I've gotten I said, have you ever listened to the Lawfare podcast, guys? With your Trump signs, you would never be making these kind of terrible.
Capitulated immediately.
And they
voter fraud or not, Mike Chase?
But I don't know what to do. And people have said augment it with another Black Lives Matter, or one of those sad, like, please respect us, America, Mr. President. And I can't do it. So I'm just leaving my little Biden-Harris thing, and hoping we can.
I've got a solution for you.
What's that?
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of solutions. One, light is not a nuisance under property law, and you can project your a giant Biden-Harris sign onto their fucking house, and you can just shine it straight through their windows.
I don't really want to agitate her because
you can shine it onto your own house.
All right, you're right. That's a great idea.
There's another thing you can do.
Yeah,
you can invite them on Trumpcast and ask them the tough questions.
I do know, and just as a way of kindling a little sympathy for them, that she is a cop who is tired of Black Lives Matter. She's just tired of it. It's just bothering her too much. So I really do worry that Black Lives Matter might be too tiring for her, and that would be why she's voting for Trump. So that's pretty much all I need to know about her, is her Black Lives Matter fatigue. To think that I don't know that we could have a productive conversation in spite of my fluency in emoluments. That's my guess.
So, Mike, do you hear voter fraud in that?
No, it's not. But I will tell you, this is something that really.
This is a good game. Voter fraud or
fraud or not voter fraud. Yeah. Yeah, voter fraud is like, it's like
you gotta work to commit voter fraud.
Like wire fraud is one of those things where it's like somebody says, "Is it wire fraud?" The answer is yes. It's wire fraud. Of course,
it's always wire fraud.
The question is it voter fraud? The odds are, if there's a video that's going viral on Twitter or on YouTube of like a couple of people of opposite political persuasions fighting and wrestling on a sidewalk somewhere, and they're screaming because somebody stole my flag or they stole my sign. Like, It's not voter fraud, and they're always saying like that's election interference. You're stealing my sign. It's not. It's not. And there was a video that circulated recently of Kamala Harris. I can't tell you how many times that I got this sent to me of her outside of a polling place with a megaphone, and she sort of talking to voters waiting in line. Like, everyone's like, is this a crime? Like, can we get the FBI involved in this? And the answer is, I don't know. Maybe she was behind the line. Maybe she wasn't. The answer is, so few things are actually voter fraud. But I will tell you, my neighbor had a sign out the other day, a lawn sign, and it was for like a painting company. And I went over to his house and I said, "This is no time for neutrality. I don't know how you get the audacity of putting this sign out for a painting company on your front lawn. Like, pick a side, man."
Ooh,
like,
yes.
And so it's like, come on. But anyway, I don't know what that was all about. But
So I have a question in keeping with the question that that Virginia had before about wire fraud and like what exactly is wire fraud. So like I even went to law school and I still have no idea what racketeering is.
Oh yeah.
As far as I can tell, when I was a young child, I imagined it. I still imagine this when I think of the word, is I imagine a mix between like tennis rackets and mouseketeers. And so in this visualization, they have like their little ears are tennis rackets. And so that is a racketeer. But I don't like.
Isn't racketeering like wire fraud? It's pretty much, if you think it's racketeering, it's racketeering.
No,
right?
If you think it's racketeering, it probably isn't racketeering. So that's another one. So if you want to have this conversation, we have
an awesome question from the audience.
Okay.
For voter fraud or no voter fraud.
Oh, okay.
I'm bringing in Ruth Greenblatt to play. Sure. This is the first game we have ever had on
voter fraud or no voter fraud.
Fraud or no voter fraud.
But promise me we're going to get back to Kate's vision of racketeers.
It takes a little while for Crowdcast to bring somebody in.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so I want to hear because this is always like, I kind of always feel like they throw it in like with the kitchen sink and racketeering.
Oh yeah. So the whole thing about RICO or racketeering, first of all, if you want to have this conversation, you got to get Popat back on. You got to get Ken White back on.
He loves RICO.
Sort of his shtick. But the whole thing about racketeering is that like it's got to be a pattern and practice of criminal acts in order to sort of form a criminal enterprise of graft and theft and sort of mafioso type conduct. But yeah, usually it isn't racketeering. I'm kind of like Kate. I actually like the Mouseketeer hybrid better, but I always think of the Rocketeer, which was like,
oh, I remember that.
What a great movie! Yeah,
was it a good movie? Was it a good movie?
Well, I've
gone back and watched it recently.
I think it was the first time I ever had Sour Patch Kids, so I think it was a pretty good movie. I mean, that's my recollection. So, but I think the aesthetics were pretty cool, and I think it was a little like steampunk. I think people got into it, but
Rocketeer.
Again, so we've really laid the lines. Is it voter fraud? No, it probably isn't. Is it wire fraud? It probably is. Is it racketeering? It probably is not.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's an RFK thing, right? like,
Oh God, yeah, sure,
it could
yeah.
potentially be an assembly or a speech problem, but somehow the last prosecutor that could just ram things through and make new crimes. Hey, we got another Mouseketeer.
We've got an
Hello.
important question here in the spirit of making fun of the election.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly
from my
ridiculous
old
question, Ben.
From my old college friend Alejandro Manovich, who is a Canadian lawyer. And Alex, I just can't do your question justice, so we're going to see if you can pose it with a straight face.
So, I moved to Canada almost 30 years ago, having grown up in the U.S. And one of the things that struck me when I moved here is that you just don't see election-related bumper stickers. This is not a thing here.
Kind of like flags. American
It's just like we don't do that. So I thought, we also do seem to have a much easier time with elections here in Canada. We don't really have a democracy deficit like you talk about in the U.S. And I thought, well, maybe if the U.S. banned political bumper stickers, that would kind of help solve the problem. So I wanted to know what you thought of that.
Virginia?
It's not an identity issue.
Could you solve all of America's political problems by banning political bumper stickers?
I mean, the thing that who you support is an identity issue is like, that seems to be now in cartoon proportions. I mean, when I moved to this neighborhood, someone did point out, there are some of those people around. I mean, that like real estate prices could be affected by the fact that there were some Trump signs around. And that's,
well, judging by my house in the Shenandoah, which is in a 70-30 Trump-Clinton county, and real estate values are really cheap. Real estate, the more Trump voters you have, because they don't bring in Cory Booker to manage those, those regions. And so the real estate values fall.
It's weird, though. I can't say that it's not a little sinister to have people whisper to you about the element, meaning red hats, when you move to a neighborhood. I don't know. It just doesn't set well with me. As much as who doesn't like to hate Trumpites, and think that they bring the value down, and people who are tired of Black Lives Matter deserve to vote too. And it's just, the whole conversation is weird. I mean, I'm telling you that real estate agents talking
Here's a serious question, though. If somebody you knew was a Trump supporter, came to you and said, Virginia, I'm really thinking about not voting this year. What do you think? Should I vote? Would you, as Kate jokingly did, discourage voter participation because of the anticipation of that person would actually support?
I would definitely say, what difference can your vote make? They're all the same. Take a nap, take it easy that day, watch your Fox News, and go to the polls on Thursday. Go to the polls the next month, when you feel better about it. I would suppress away.
I mean, well, look, so going back to the bumper sticker question, I mean, there's got to be a statute of limitations. I'm not taking my Perot bumper sticker off. It's not happening. It's staying there.
God bless you. Do you seriously have a Perot bumper sticker?
God, I wish I did. I'd put it over my Dukakis bumper sticker if I had one. But
Mondale, come on, first person I can't pay for.
I think the real threat, look, you're thinking about election years, and you're thinking about political bumper stickers. I think the real threat to democracy are coexist bumper stickers. So if we could, kind of
envision world peas.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's too early for us to hate the hippies, because it's right after the election, we can go back to our old splinter ways where we don't like coexistence. But today we need everybody.
This reminds me of a shtick one of my friends in college had. He was a stand-up comedian, and he was like, I really love, I walked by this car that just was covered the entire back of it and all of these insane conservative bumper stickers just like floor to floor, like Jesus is my co-pilot, like, you know, like breaks for God, like all of these like kind of things. And then there was this one that was like, gays need not apply. And he was like, what are gays gonna do? Like roll up their resume and stick it in your tailpipe and just like apply for what? Like who, like, but there's so much signaling that happens with bumper stickers. It's incredible. So this is like, I don't know, it's like an interesting phenomenon. My parents were strictly anti bumper sticker ever, no matter what.
Oh yeah.
I had one in high school that was said Eve was framed, and I got called a lesbian every day for like all of high school. Like,
same, but for different reasons. But
yeah. But you got called a lesbian.
All right, so are we taking the position that a Virginia, yes or no,
retail, like encouraging someone not to stay home?
No,
I think there's lots of people who shouldn't vote.
Yeah,
that's a poll question. We're not dealing. We're dealing with Alejandro Manovich's question. At the end of the day, yes or no, does a ban on political bumper stickers solve America's polarization problem?
I'm not against. I think there's something there. I think the T-shirts and I don't know. I just talked to a neo-Nazi this week, a former neo-Nazi this week on Trumpcast, Chris Picciolini, the professional former neo-Nazi, it's just all about the garb. It's all about the tattoos and the branding and when he first put on the jack boots or the steel-tipped boots. And I do think if we could cool off our wardrobes, right? Like the whole idea that you're signaling things and that everything's
more dog shirts.
Yes,
fewer dog shirts, Ben.
Exactly.
I love that dog shirts.
Less polarization.
How are you going to like punch a guy like that in the face? He's got this great, but like you like no, you're just gonna
Mike
laugh.
Chase. At the end of the day, ban on political bumper stickers?
No. Like it's like I would sooner say that we should ban political parties than say that we should ban bumper stickers. Okay, because what I think that the problem of like straight party voting is actually one of the bigger problems, right? Like it goes back to this old debate that's always existed, right? Should people be able to campaign on TV, or should it only be in print, right? Where you force the electorate to actually read what the policy positions are. You know, should people be able to use the shorthand of a party? I don't know. I think what you're talking on is this whole sloganeering piece of it, right? Like is the adoption and sort of religification, that's not a word, but you know what I mean? Like the turning a slogan into a religion, is that the problem? I mean, it may be, but like, I don't think a ban on bumper stickers, like that's just a great reason to give somebody like two middle fingers when you fly past them on the highway instead of one. I mean, that's
so. I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said, "Jesus is my co-pilot. We cruise chicks together."
That is super demeaning to Jesus. Like why is he the co-pilot? Like I don't.
Honestly,
wingman. Oh yeah, he's supposed to drive.
I don't know what to make of it, but I liked it.
They're not a Calvinist, I guess. Well, anyway.
No,
Did you ever see the Pope correcting Bibi Netanyahu and great Bibi Papa vaudeville show? That's a really fantastic video that's off subject, but off topic. But look it up. Bibi says, "Oh, I'm all about Jesus because he spoke Hebrew," and
I saw that.
The Pope says Aramaic.
Yeah,
and you can understand the Pope when he says it.
Right on that one.
And Bibi is thrown. I've never seen Netanyahu thrown, but the Pope, man, did him in. It was good.
Yeah.
Pope own. Nothing like a good Pope own.
No,
when the Pope just jabs you with a right hook. You know, also it's pretty embarrassing to be the Prime Minister of Israel and not know that the vernacular in that area of the world in the first century was Aramaic, particularly because there are still people who actually speak Aramaic, and so that's a living language for people in certain parts of the West Bank around Mount Gezira, the Samaritans. who are real
Mhm.
and still speak Aramaic as a native language, as well as Chaldean Christians around from Iraq who are now mostly in Detroit, but they still speak Aramaic as a native language, as well as certain Christian sects in Syria who speak the Syriac dialect of Aramaic.
But are they
And so
senior government officials, Ben? That
they're
is
not. They're not even necessarily Syrian. They speak Syriac. And so if you're the prime minister of Israel and I know this shit, you should know this shit. Alice Mercer, the floor is yours. You have an awesome question for Virginia Heffernan.
So, Virginia, right before this, hello. I'm a regular Trump cast lister since the early days. But your fellow Slatist or Slate people went over and posted up a tweet that came up right before this. And I guess he's starting to worry about what's going to happen if the orange guy's still in charge. And he came up with this plan. And I think it's an interesting discussion starter for what do we do if things turn out badly? Because I'm seeing some of that over in the chat as well. And so his advice is that that if he wins, that the billionaire class, like the Bloombergs that hate him, should go over and pay him off, offer him $500 million stipend to fire his entire cabinet, replace it with modern Democrats. Javanka could stay as White House advisors, free to govern like the moderates they are. The U.S. agrees not to look into emoluments violations. The House agrees not to impeach. It can continue doing any head of state things he likes. He has access to Air Force One. In other words, he gets to keep his toys.
I mean, did you all see? I'm sure you did. I mean, who wouldn't have seen this Mission Impossible Fallout? But it's the last one. And remember, there's a terrorist in it, and they show him. Okay, he's in his hospital bed, and they stage all this stuff. And Wolf Blitzer's involved, showing him that all his wishes have come true. Like all these religious sites, he's like a staunch atheist, have been bombed, and it's very exciting. And then he's happy, and then I think maybe then he dies. God, I should remember that. Great movie.
I wasn't anticipating that. Okay.
But then Wolf Blitzer comes out, and it's all been staged, right? So I feel like maybe something like that could be done to Trump. Like we could just create images of rallies that make him but really put him in a padded cell, surrounded by those things, so he wouldn't leave, because there would just be the exact world that he had imagined of Trump. It's a really great movie. I'm not doing it justice.
Yeah, but can we do that? Couldn't we do that with all of us? Right? Like at some point, couldn't we all just have like a VR goggles on where we can literally live within our echo chamber, and we can just dream that the world is as we want it to be outside.
Wherein wins, and you can roll back a little bit to where we all went off track. So, I think that's I think it's a good idea. But I also, just to be so depressing, because Ben told me that I'm the dismal one tonight, and Mike's the funny one. So
wait, no, other way around. Other way around.
I said that you were that every day for the next 3 days, we were going to have one person who was a serious person and one person who was a comedian.
And then it's up to us to figure out who it was the whole time.
Well, and that this one was a little bit complicated, because you're very funny, but you're also serious.
I thought I was coming on to be the senior administration official.
You're coming on.
No, if you were, you'd have a bag over your head, Mike. Let's be honest. Also, the real loser here is Dog Shirt, which we can't see at all because of Ben's. So now that's great. Just stand up every few minutes, Ben.
Oh my God, that is so nipply and weird.
It's kind of amazing.
Nipply.
Okay, Ben.
Nipply and weird.
Ben, I'm gonna read the question, but Ben, we have to do a final poll. That should be the final poll for everyone up to election day. Who is the serious guest and who is the funny guest? And that's our final poll. And
that's really mean.
We're gonna vote you off the fucking island, Mike Chase.
I'm coming back, though. I'm still coming back.
All right, so wait a minute.
Can I say my depressing thing?
I have
please.
tried to bring Ruth Greenblatt on screen to play voter fraud or not voter fraud. But I haven't been able to technically make it happen. So Kate is going to read Ruth Greenblatt's question. But first, do your thing.
My dismal moment. I just feel like obviously it's a terrifying prospect if Trump wins next week, or if it's so close that he can sick the Proud Boys on us, or sick Bill Barr on state officials, and jam up the works. And I really actually think we need to take it a day at a time. It's like, these are hard days to get through, and it is actually sort of beyond the realm of contemplation to think of him winning. Honestly, that's I on that day, if that happens, we all have really tough decisions to make, and it's going to be really hard and sad. And I don't know what to say beyond that, but this is the really kind of emo thing, but I sort of think we have to like honor that anxiety. I don't know if this is the time that, there are people who left the country when Nixon was elected, and raised their children in Mallorca.
Apparently it was Alex who went to Canada way before all of us.
Alex went to classy Canada without its bumper stickers, and has the moral high ground now. And good for him. And what about those Richies that went to Mallorca? None of us have that option, or not all of us have that option. And so I think there'll be a lot of taking stock, and it is actually unthinkable. I think my brain and heart reach their limits when I think about a re-election. So I don't know. I think we need to honor that. I don't know who I sound like there. Deepak Chopra, something like that. Mike, you want to light the mood?
No, I mean, the problem is I'm such a cynic, and some with nihilistic undertones that I'm just to me it's like I feel like I don't sometimes I feel like I don't really have a voice in all of it, because there's no place for cynicism for a lot of people. They say no, it's exclusively a time for righteous action in one direction. I think that's a prevailing feeling, at least on Twitter, and it's hard to divorce yourself from whether that's reality or whether that's not reality. But the truth is, I'm such a cynic that I at least have deluded myself, if I'm not right, into believing that so fucking what? It's just so much of my day to day. If I had a pie chart, and I a 3D pie chart, not just one of those boring pie charts. If I went into Excel and I made a 3D pie chart of my day, I really do think very little is going to change. But that doesn't mean I know if other people's day to day is going to change. But I just honestly, I just feel like so little. There's so many. The volume of absolute fucking morons in federal government that exist, and the amount of how much of our lives have remained static over decades, allows me to be, I think, sort of a cynic about it. I've been somewhat politically homeless my whole life, and so I don't know. I kind of just feel like the dust is going to settle after, I'd say, 90 days after the election, whatever happens, and I think it's just going to feel like it's felt. But because I think it's felt pretty bad for a while. I mean, at least this past year has felt pretty bad, independent of who's been in the White House. So my cynicism has really gotten me through. I recommend cynicism. I actually think that it is a great, if it's not legitimate, it's a great coping mechanism, because I feel pretty chill about the whole thing.
I want to I know we have to go to Ruth's question, but I just want to second that. I actually was very, very moved by when Obama was elected in 2008. I was out celebrating the streets. I was covering it, and there was obviously it was kind of this amazing historic moment. I was deeply depressed when Trump was elected, and in both cases my partner was it doesn't really matter that much. Nothing is going to change that much in your everyday life. And like, I found that to be a deeply cynical take that I like really brought up with him, but it didn't actually change a lot. I think that that's true. And I think that there were, you know, when you get down to the nitty gritty on things, I think that there's a lot of stuff that the Obamas get credit for that they didn't really do, whatever. But like, what I will say is that like, there is something about the erosion of like the treatment of the office of the president. With this, like, and all from the very beginning, his entire like just like existence, like, you know, and the fact that like the executive branch has been in the spotlight just so much more than ever before that I'm just exhausted with. And so like, I actually disagree with you a little. Like, I don't think that besides besides the appointments to judges that he was able to put into place, and that was also, you know, the Senate. I don't think that it's going to be that big a sea change in my everyday life, except to say that it'll be a huge sea change in my everyday life, in which people are just not going to be walking around with this like kind of cloud over their head of the clowniness of our own government and the fear of what's going to happen next.
I just want to say, remind people that some percentage of 200,000 dead people don't need to be dead, and that the difference for their lives is pretty substantial. All right, wait. We've got...
I have a question. Well, I know we have questions, but I have a question about that that's actually, I really would love to hear people's thoughts. Do you think that there would be fewer... Do you think that that number would be lower if Hillary Clinton had been president?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that number would... Now, how much lower depends on an evaluation of the competence of the Clinton administration, which is a purely hypothetical question.
My point is,
let's say
that's a little bit what I'm saying too.
Well, look at Germany, which is, you know, Angela Merkel is a reasonable approximation of, you know, sort of technocratic moderate, right? Who believes in science. So that would be at one possible model. South Korea, which is the extreme competence. Taiwan is another possibility. France, which is a technocratic government that has performed less well, is another possibility. All of them have significantly lower per capita death rates than we do. And so I don't even think it's a serious question.
Yeah,
all of which brings us to Ruth Greenblatt's, who, back to the game show part of this hour, who wants to play voter fraud or no voter fraud. Kate?
Okay. Ruth Greenblatt asks, is it a crime to send a letter, return address is County Democratic Party, on stationery that features a Harris-Biden logo, that states Bernie Sanders and AOC will control the White House and Congress and will make U.S. socialist if Biden wins? Letters mailed to individuals with Biden-Harris signs in their yard.
Is that voter fraud?
Is it a crime?
If it's a crime,
to do it.
Yeah, if it's a crime, you're going to have to look at, like, you're obviously going to be looking at like campaign finance pieces of it, but you're not like, if the question is if is it voter fraud or is it not voter fraud, it's fundamentally not.
Yeah.
The voter fraud has to the voter fraud has to be like inextricably intertwined with the vote being cast, right? Like the vote itself. You are a person who is not entitled to vote and you are voting, or you are voting on behalf of somebody who
can't
else, right? Who could, and you're casting the vote on behalf of them. Those are the sort of the core voter fraud issues. But like, there's really freewheeling like liberty with respect to like the bullshit you can say in a campaign. I mean, like if you've ever accidentally ended up on a campaign mailing list, which a lot of us have, like the stuff that they can say in the emails that is actually totally legal about like what's going to happen if the other person gets elected is like so rarely like tethered to reality. I'd probably say that it skews wrong when you talk about the Trump emails that you get. I mean, like the Trump emails, like you're basically, if your kid walks into a pizza restaurant after Biden gets elected, they'll tell you that your kid is going to disappear and be internationally trafficked, and like there's a crazy conspiracy theory.
What about the quality of the letter that impersonates a campaign that they're in fact not affiliated with?
Oh well, so like right, so that's there are federal crimes about purporting to speak on behalf of a campaign that you're not affiliated
sounds like
with.
wire fraud to me.
Yeah, it probably isn't. It probably isn't.
But you're not asking for anything.
You're not asking for anything of value.
Like, so therefore,
value.
Send me money because
Right.
I'm Biden Harris.
Right. Pecuniary value or honest services, right? Those are going to be the wire fraud crimes. But there are specific statutes. I could find one and I could make it the crime tonight. But there are specific regulations that are criminalized by statute for purporting to speak on behalf of a campaign that you do not, in fact, speak on behalf of. And so that is for sure. I mean, look, that's why we ended up with I'm so and so and I approve this message. That is the whole basis for that, right? So yeah. Speaking on behalf of a campaign for which you don't speak on behalf of is absolutely a crime. Not voter fraud, but it's an election crime. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
We've got Catherine Maddox, who has been waiting very patiently and very invisibly. Now she is visible, she is audible, and the floor is hers.
Hey, I'm a big fan of Trumpcast.
Oh, great.
Yes. Do you still? I haven't listened in a little while because I got sucked into In Lieu of Fun and Lawfare. But do you still use the actor to do the Trump tweets? He's hilarious.
John D. Domenico. He has almost gotten too big for us, but he was fantastic. I cheered for him over Alec Baldwin all this time, and his story. I don't know if did you ever hear? I did a couple of interviews with him. He is probably the only person and who can claim to have found empathy for Trump, like somatic empathy, because he knows what it's like to like square its jaw, and do and purse his lips. And he has an interesting family story where very difficult, abusive father.
He wrote a book about him, and he's upset about it.
The father? Oh no! Oh yeah.
I'm just making shit up.
It's not quite a Fred Trump situation, but it is a situation where he was always trying to guess. It was one of those when you hear the wheels, the gravel on the road as your father drives up, you wonder if he's going to hit you or not, right? So this is John D. Domenico's story. So he said he was always trying to figure out what made his father tick and how he could be liked by his father. And in that way, he used to work for Trump hotels. Like he used to be in the casinos, actually, the voice of Trump, because Trump couldn't be bothered to say, welcome to the Taj Mahal. Wow. So he did that, right? So he was kind of team Trump. And he was like, and then he started to satirize him. And then he found a meal ticket after Trump was elected, talking to others. But he's really interesting. I can link to the show, talking about understanding when Trump, understanding, I think, why he does the particular broad gesture. I can't remember it exactly. And just a very, exactly. Method actor, physically driven approach to understanding Trump's writing himself and his theatricality and he's always very presentational. Like he imagines what he looks like.
He has the cadence down perfectly. He's really the best mimic. Anyways, quick question. So you guys, what are you going to do with a Biden presidency for humor? The only thing I could think about was maybe Chevy Chase doing Gerald Ford, because it was the only one. You don't want to make too much fun of Biden for being a stumbler or a stutterer or whatever. But where's the humor in a Biden presidency? Thanks.
Well, Biden, I actually think that maybe it doesn't have to turn on Biden. maybe we can really start making fun of members of Congress as much as we should. Like so much of the comedic component has been focused on like the president, and it's gotten a little like, it's like, okay, like I've seen some hilarious president stuff, but like think about so many of the knuckleheads in Congress that we should be making fun of. Like how come there is not a hilarious like Ted Cruz that is getting made fun of on a daily basis? Because there's like a ton of material there. And like, so I'd like to see, because and there's so many of them. I would just like to see more of the boneheads in Congress getting made fun of on a regular basis. I think, and again, that is one of the cases where if you're not like a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, to vote for Joe Biden is like to like maybe have some peace, like have some like again, it's the line, lower the blood pressure, but it also opens up comedically, it opens up the lanes to make fun of like boneheads in government who've been getting a pass for so long. So I'd love to see that. That's my view. I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah, people are recommending Louis Gohmert, Jim Jordan. I mean, these are Louis Gohmert. So I always Frenchify his name.
Gohmert,
but yeah. Someone called me out on that. Yeah, he's terrific. And I mean, the accent, come on.
I mean, like, what about Kennedy? Like Kennedy, like Senator Kennedy, like eventually just slipping into like so much Louisiana that he's just like completely incomprehensible. Like, I don't know. Like, I just think that like there's a lot of material there.
So Virginia, does Trumpcast get canceled January 20th, or does it stay around?
Or
do you cancel it? Do you
mean
retire right?
Culture or cancel like a regular thing?
I mean like I assume Trumpcast does not survive the Trump. It rides off into the sunset victorious, right?
This is where I have to quote Joe Biden in the phrase he coined, inshallah, Bidenism, it'll end at the inauguration. And if not, as I said, we're in trouble. Yeah, I'm not going to do I think I might have said before, there is some possibility. Do you guys know that joke of, oi, am I hungry? Oi, am I hungry? Oi, am I hungry? Then you get fed. Oi, was I hungry? Oi, was I hungry? Well, that's
You're not gonna do that.
There is sort of a way that I could do 4 more years of Trumpcast just saying like, man, that was a shit show. Remember when Mueller was appointed? Let's talk to Ben Wittes about that. Do you think he'll be indicted? And then we are just
not going to do that
again. But I'm not going to do that. There is a new show in the works. I am extremely excited about it. Not to sound like some kind of Letterman guest, but it is essentially, we will revisit the institutions that set us up for this catastrophe and ask if they should be scrapped or reformed. Including the Senate, the Girl Scouts, you name it. If it's an institution, if it's an establishment,
does the show have a name?
Colleges, it has a name, and it is such a great name that I want to debut it on Trumpcast, not here. But it came from Alicia Montgomery. What's that?
I said, ouch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, good. People are saying that sounds great. I'm really, really excited about it because I've had a fear, probably like the fear of the cynics, that we'd see Joe Biden come in and then glad hand with Mitch McConnell on day one. And, already they're clearly backing away from expanding the courts. Nobody's talking about defunding the police anymore. And so I'm hoping we can hold their feet to the fire on doing institutional reform.
All right, Brad Grossman, who does not seem to want to be visible, you get the last question. Oh, you do want to be visible.
Yeah, there I am. Huge Trumpcast fan, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Brad.
Throw that out there. I've actually seen the show live twice. So as I'm, looking at the polls and I'm allowing the tiniest bit of optimism to start to creep in, I'm also starting to worry that I've become addicted to the outrage of the last 4 years. And, assuming a Biden win, do I keep the outrage and redirect it, or, just spend some time thinking about something else besides the president? Because it's been nonstop, for almost 4 years.
You should make some lamb prosciutto.
I will.
And send it to me. So, what do you think, Mike? Should we resent the loss of our outrage, or should we cultivate like macrame or, mahjong as alternative hobbies?
Yeah, this is what I was talking about, is like about cynicism. It's a coping mechanism that's divorced from reality, right? It's like not like it's like something that you do in order to not like have your cortisol level be through the roof so that you can't like function. I mean, the fact is, it is easy to be outraged about things. I don't think, frankly, I think that after Inauguration Day, whatever happens, I don't think Trumpism is going anywhere. I think Trumpism was such a moment that I think that it will be a long time, if ever, that we really see it go away. I think outrage is an incredibly effective tool in all forms, and I think that it will spin off. I mean, we had this conversation at the beginning of the pandemic. I think it will spin off art. I think it will spin off lots of commentary that is useful, and I think it actually will bring many of us together, because there was an old SNL skit that I thought was great, which was like, or maybe it wasn't even SNL. Somebody brought it up. They said there should be a dating app called Hater. And Hater is a dating app that matches us based on we hate the same things, which I think is a much more effective like thing. Like, you should start every first date. You should say, all right, so tell me like the top 5 things that you just fucking hate.
Right.
Because if you agree on those,
I would never have met my partner.
Right.
Yeah.
If that was the dating app, though.
You wouldn't have met.
No,
You wouldn't have.
I never would have.
Because you hate different things.
He hates mayonnaise, and I like love mayonnaise.
Oh, but I think those are
deeply.
pet peeves. We're talking about just
It's
like
not
the
pet
hate that
peeves.
burns
It's
you
like,
up.
okay, so it would just be real. Like, so you think that like literally, Mike, it should just be like your kind of, your real like ride or die value systems.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. But like the things that you hate about them, not like the thing that you're like passionate about, right? Like, if you are an environmentalist and you are like, I love the national parks, that's fine. That is fine.
But I fucking hate fracking, or
hate fracking,
or Rex Tillerson.
Exactly.
Right. That's the way to go.
I think that there is I think you just bond. I don't know, like the heat and the pressure. It's like geology. It's like you really merge at that point, I think. So I think there is a place for outrage going forward. I think there is, and I think it's not something. Yeah, I think dating apps, I think art, I think lots of things. I just hope like people have more healthy coping mechanisms than I do, because I think it's much more important to be like engaged rather than disconnect yourself, because the truth is it's important to like sort of live in the moment. But I think that there's a place for all of the emotions that we've been feeling for the last 4 years. I no matter what happens.
What do you think, Virginia? Are you gonna give up on the whole thing and move on to peace, love, and tofu? Or are you gonna nurse this like the people who, spent 40 years arguing about whether Alger Hiss was guilty?
Well, yeah, did you get, well, okay, I'm going to leave that off.
I'm totally going to do that, by the way.
Ben, I know you started in music at the conservatory, and I don't know anything about political science. I feel like I understand Scientology more than the science and the words political science. So I did English. So I just wrote a piece for Wired, and I continue right now for The Economist and Wired about cultural matters. And I'm hoping that I can sort of move out of this into talking about this what Matthew Arnold called sweetness and light. So one of the things I did for Wired is talk about the four to five cultural objects that I missed over the last 4 years. I just didn't spend any time thinking about them. And they're not ones that the world at large missed. They're just ones that I didn't pay enough attention to. So Parasite, even Cat Person, by the way, short story, remember from the beginning of
I
the
love
regime.
that.
Yeah,
you didn't pay attention to that?
I paid some attention to it, but I went back to it. Worth going back to. That was like almost 4 years ago now. This play, Fairview, one of the last plays I saw in the theater, so good. Hannah Gadsby's performance, Nanette, was also really good. And I just was like, let's just pretend that they're like, I don't know, just like Ben listening to his, pretentious music, his posh music. Just and letting it move his soul.
What just
One last
happened?
burn.
No,
There's
no, no,
always one last
happened?
burn.
no,
I'm
no, no,
feeling
no.
warm from
Gosh,
the fire in
I'll leave
here.
it there
Holy
with the
shit.
gratuitous
I'm
assault
just
on my
jealous
musical
that
taste.
you actually like you're like, you know, you're like our dads. Like you really think that it sounds good to listen to classical music. You do it while you're alone. You don't just do it to impress people.
But the shirt was nipply and weird.
I just want to say,
love that
on the fact that the nipply and weird seems to have decisively won the poll. I defy you all, and I will wear dog shirts anyway.
I'm so glad to hear
Because
that.
dog shirts are awesome, and if you think they are nipply, get over your discomfort with nipples. And if you think they are weird, get over your discomfort with weirdness. So there will be another dog shirt tomorrow. Whenever there is a clean dog shirt, there will be a dog shirt. We're going to leave it there. Kate, we don't know who we're having tomorrow, right?
No, we do not yet.
But it'll be somebody serious and somebody funny to make fun of the election.
You guys were both funny, but Mike, you were slightly less funny than Virginia.
Good. Thank God.
Whoa.
Pressure's off.
Virginia, you were slightly less serious than Mike.
But who was more nipply? I say I was more nipply.
No one. There's literally. There's a zero-sum game with nipply, and Ben won it. So like,
point out that the word nipply, I think, may have been coined.
I just
to
don't
refer
even
to
know what's
dog
going
shirt
on.
today.
I just
Yeah.
this is good.
We're gonna leave it there. We will be back 22 hours and 52 minutes from now, and until then, we don't have fun
anymore. But we are weird and nipply.
Dog shirts, which are nipply and weird. See you later.